Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Today in front of me I have this MSI gaming laptop. This is the Bravo 15 and this thing can run some pretty cool games like Death Stranding, Warzone, Fortnite. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. Taking a look at the specs of the Bravo 15, so this is the A4 DDR model. It comes with a 15.6 screen and also it is 120 Hz anti-glare. And when we're looking at the CPU, it comes with the AMD Ryzen 7 4800 and VGA AMD Radeon RX 5500M, and that's with the 4 gigs at GDDR6. And the SSD, it comes with 512 gigabytes, and memory DDR4 16 gigs, so 8 times 2. Looking at the front of the laptop here, it does have a nice design here. Taking a look at the side here, we do have an HDMI and also the power is on the left hand side, and we do get some vents here. Looking at the other side here, we do get the lock option, Ethernet, which is nice to see, and also 2 USB Type-Cs and 2 more USB Type-A's as well. And also we got the headphone jack there as well, which is very nice. And looking at the back here, we do get a nice design here and some vents as well, and nothing else there. So take a look at the back panel here. So this thing is a fingerprint and a dust magnet. I kind of have this so I can just clean it so I can show you guys. But like fingerprints and everything else kind of like show up very easily here. But otherwise it looks like it has this nice aluminum finish to it. And it looks nice actually, but just keep in mind you're gonna kind of have to like maintain this and clean it off. Taking a look at the keys, they are red backlit. Unfortunately there's like no RGB or anything like that, but actually I don't mind that at all because the more things you have, you kind of have to install the software, maintain it and all that. So when you're playing a game, you're not really looking at your keyboard if it's a backlit RGB and all that stuff. So when we're looking at the touchpad here, it kind of is a little bit flimsy here. If you like tap it, it doesn't, as you can see here, like you can hear it probably, it does make this little noise here. And it just doesn't feel good when you're pressing it for some reason. But anyway, if you're gonna be playing games, you're not gonna be using the touchpad here anyway. You're gonna have a mouse plugged in. So when we're looking at the screen here, we do get a 120 Hz screen, and this is a 1080p screen. Also, it is anti-glare, which is nice to see. I would have loved if this screen was a little bit brighter because right now it's at full brightness and it sometimes seems a little bit dark, especially if your room is well lit. You kind of wish this had a bigger brightness to turn on in there. So one thing you might have noticed, this laptop does not have an SD card reader, unfortunately. I would have loved to see that because this machine can actually be a good for video editing as well. So whenever you're doing any video edits, you kind of are using like SD cards. So that would have been a nice feature to have. So when we're looking at the battery life of this laptop here, when you're playing games like Warzone or like Death Stranding, obviously you're not going to be getting that full 4 hours and 53 minutes there. That's going to be way lower. And but if you're just like watching a video, Netflix, YouTube, anything like that, definitely you're gonna expect to get like around the 5-hour range for sure. With more of the high-end games, you're definitely looking at around like the 2 hours. But if you're gonna play like some simple games, definitely you're gonna be getting more. But any intense games, and you will definitely know when you're playing an intense game. And the way to know when you're playing an intense game, obviously if you're gonna be touching up here, it gets super hot and the fan noise gets way up. So that's the way to know. But anyway, like we're looking at the battery life here, 4 hours and 53 minutes. Looking at right now it's at 100%, just remove the power. And that's not bad, considering this is a budget gaming laptop pretty much. So you're gonna have to have it plugged in if you're like gonna do long hours of gaming. But you can definitely get away with more than an hour of gaming just with the battery life, which is nice. So the time has come to look at some benchmarks here before we get to the fun part of looking at some games. So OpenGL on the Cinebench R15, we got 116.25 frames. and the CPU score of 1807, which isn't bad at all. So going to the next one, the Cinebench Release 20, 4066 points here. And this has the AMD Ryzen 7 4800H. So the CrystalDiskMark here. So 1600 and 900, these are actually very good numbers to see for an SSD. Usually when I review some other laptops, these are on the 2000s and up, but those are way more expensive. So considering how much this laptop is selling for, these are very decent number, and your games, and even if you're going to do some little bit of video editing, this is very acceptable and very good to see. So next we're looking at the Superpostion benchmark, and the first test that I did is in 1080p medium, and we can see a score of 8414 here. And when we're looking at the frames, minimum we got 51.16 and an average frame of 62.93, and it went max to 76.58. So that's actually really good comparing all the specs this laptop has. It's running at very decent frame rates at medium. But when it comes to the 1080p extreme benchmark, things kind of get on the lower sides, and you're gonna expect this even on games. If you're gonna obviously put them on higher extreme, obviously your frames are gonna drop way down. So we got a score of 2465 here with a minimum of 15.30 and an average of 18.44 frames, and when we're looking at the max, 21.63, which actually is on the lower side. So definitely if you're going to be playing games on the higher end, like on the high settings, extreme settings, definitely this laptop is not for you. So we got the Bravo 15 laptop open here. So looking at the battery here, it's actually pretty huge space here, and the M.2 SSD. So we actually have one more slot available, so you're able like to purchase another M.2 and just stick it in there. And we do have a nice line of copper here, 2 fans. This fan seems a little bit bigger here than this one, and we got the Samsung DDR4s here. And unfortunately, you're not going to be able to add more, but if you're going to buy like 16 gigs, then you can definitely stick them and replace these, so you have that option. But everything else seems pretty straightforward here, pretty simple. The speakers, nothing impressive, just 2 small speakers here. And when we're looking at the audio, we don't get that impressive sound, like not much bass in there. And now I can see kind of why, because these 2 speakers, nothing impressive there. But I like what they did with the heatsink here. It's pretty generous. They included much copper here, so just to keep the system cool overall. So when it comes to games like Death Stranding here, it does take actually kind of forever to load, but once it's loaded, I'm gonna go ahead and click resume now. But it took roughly around like 4 or 5 minutes actually just to load the game up here. So if I go ahead and continue.
Beginning scan. Scanning bridges ID. Verifying ID. Clear. All weapons will remain locked until departure. All clear. Welcome.
And the speakers here, you can definitely hear they're decent. Don't expect too much like bass or too loud. These are like some decent speakers this has, but you can see here it is actually running the game very smoothly. There's like no hiccups or anything like that. So let's just go ahead and run outside here. And one thing is the fans are getting louder and louder, and up here kind of gets warmer and warmer. We're in the point like if you touch after maybe half an hour of playing, you kind of like your fingers can get burned there. But you can see here Death Stranding runs with no issues here, and I'm gonna show you exactly what settings I'm using. So if I go under systems and go options here, if I go under graphics settings, and these are the settings. So we're running at 1080p, 120 frames per second here, I have it set, and the monitor supports that. So we're running at medium here, and some of them high, so shadow resolution high. So definitely if you're going to turn these off, you're going to be getting even more frame rates. And like motion blur is on, depth of field is on, because this system can kind of run and anti-aliasing is on as well, because this laptop is actually able to handle these settings, which is nice to see. And I've been playing this game for a bit now, and actually haven't had like any errors or anything like that. I was able to play more than half an hour without issues, and the frame rates are good. No stuttering or nothing, which is very nice to see on this very thin gaming laptop. So I'm just gonna be walking a little bit here just so you can see how the game runs here. So let's just look around. Obviously right now I'm not using a mouse, I'm just using the touchpad. So it is possible to play this game with a touchpad, but it is best played with a controller. And one thing I can hear, the fan noise, it just gets louder and louder. And I think right now it's at its max. So looking at this game here, the shadows and everything look good. The water, the textures are almost like high, which is nice to see. So right now I'm testing out Warzone here, and definitely I had issues with other AMD laptops prior, but I think they updated their drivers. So right now Warzone runs perfect. So let's go ahead and select a weapon here. And just let's go to the options so we can see how much frames we're getting. So let's just go here and enable that. And as you can see, the volume is actually pretty good. So right now I almost have it like at max, so I'm just gonna turn it down for now. But it is actually reasonably good. But if you're gonna use headsets, I would definitely recommend that better. And one thing is, the monitor, actually the 120 Hz monitor looks nice on this game. And taking a look at the frames here, we're getting around 60, 70, 80 I'm seeing sometimes. But a very decent frame rate for this budget-friendly gaming laptop actually. And right now the fan noise is rising up, so definitely would suggest you wear headsets while you're playing this game. So having the chance to play Call of Duty Warzone with this laptop, I definitely have been getting over like 60-70 frames per second without any issues. And let me show you exactly what settings I've been using. And before we go there, looking around and everything looks very like smooth and everything. Haven't had like any crashes or anything like that, especially because I have had issues before with the AMD drivers, but this time had no issues. And I have been playing a few matches and no issues there at all. So take a look at some of the settings here. Some of them I do have set to normal, like texture resolution, I have it set to normal. And take a look at some of the other settings down here. Shadow map resolution, like I have it set at high. Cache spot shadows enabled, and all these things here. So it's not running at very low settings, this is like running at medium settings, and we're definitely able to get over like 60-70 frames per second, which is nice to see. So if you're definitely going to use lower settings, definitely that frame rate is going to jump way up. But currently with the medium settings, we're getting very nice quality of the game, and we're not really sacrificing any of the FPS here. And as you can see here, the game runs very nice and smooth. So my final thoughts on this Bravo 15 gaming laptop here. It is actually pretty thin. The battery is actually not bad at all, considering that it can actually run games like Death Stranding, Warzone. Even like Warzone, you're able to play like it even high frame rates, like over 60 frames per second without any issues actually. And if you're gonna go lower settings, obviously you're gonna be getting more higher frame rates. So one thing that I love about this Bravo 15 is where they place the power input here, because usually it's always on the right hand side, and if you're gonna plug a mouse or anything like that, it's always kind of in the way, the cable. So this is like the perfect side, so it's not gonna be on any way. Looking at the side here, we do get two USB Type-Cs, which is very nice to see. Also the Ethernet port. Let's say you're gonna hook this up to a monitor and you wanna use like a keyboard and mouse, you can definitely do that with this. Because we also do get the HDMI port here as well. One of the downsides of this laptop is actually the touchpad, because it actually doesn't feel that solid. Like when you I'm gonna put it closer to the microphone. If you click on it, it just feels a little flimsy here. And The only complaint is like actually the touchpad, because everything else works perfectly fine. It's able to run games and all that. But when it comes to temperatures, one thing is, if you're gonna be playing Warzone or any other game, just do not put your fingers up here, because you're gonna burn your fingers off if you're gonna place your fingers up here, because it gets very hot here. But around the like WASD keys, usually it's not that warm, which is nice. So only the heat is like stays up here, and it gets very hot. Just keep that in mind. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Go ahead and give it a thumbs up if you guys enjoyed it. Also, if you are new here, go ahead and click that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn the notifications on. I will see you guys on the next video.